The NSA just called me. We have a problem in East Timor.
What kind of problem?
A big one.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is Pandora Tomorrow hard video walkthrough. That's like the 9th different way I've said the intro, but we'll live because you know what it is, you know why you're here, and hopefully the video will do what it's intended to do. This is Mission 7. It is television-free Indonesia, Jakarta. So, once you abseil down that questionable, chimney thing that lets us abseil in these games, you're going to be on this cobbled street, and there's a guy directly across from us. To our right, there's a street full of undesirables, so we don't want to be going down there. Instead, we're going to go exactly where he was, over here, and we're going to climb this. Is it bamboo again? It looks like bamboo. Which, I think in Asia they use bamboo for scaffolding, because it's incredibly versatile and incredibly strong too. Considering it's grass, it is baller material, you know. If you live in a country like England, you don't really know too much about bamboo, other than, you know, certain animals eat it and certain countries use it for construction, but it's pretty damn awesome stuff, and it's a cool thing for game design as well, because it allows us to climb it and shit. So I'm happy that bamboo is as cool as it is, and thus I'm sliding down this pipe, and I'm about to put myself in this corner. Be very careful on that descent. There is a swinging light. It's one of the first cases of this, but it's going to turn up again. Any light source that moves is a challenge, and Chaos Theory definitely takes the moving light sources to another degree, but in this game there's only a couple instances of it, and what we're going to do here is we're going to wait for him to my right to turn off his other path. We're going to save as he does, and then we're going to go for that ladder. That means as I come out of the saving, I can immediately rush the ladder. If somebody's like, oh my god, there's a guy, I know that there's a dude looking, so I have to wait a little bit, and it's one of the best and most powerful ways to use saving I have found in these games. Get yourself into a situation where you know you have an advantage over somebody. That was really close, that one. That was a sieve. And there's a couple of guys walking around, but it gives us an opportunity to get up here. But save just as you know one of the people you're trying to get around is out of your vicinity, and if there's any other variables to be concerned with, you can just risk those. If you get an alarm, it means you have to change your strategy. If you don't, it means, you know, discretion wasn't necessarily needed at that point, and it enabled you to get on with it and do your thing. So now we're on this roof. We're going to slide across here, and we're going to drop down, and we're going to be pushing forward. So this is a really tough level. It's one of those levels where I don't remember it too much because nothing stands out, but there's a couple of sequences inside of it where you just kinda... They're tricky, and they're tricky because they don't seem to have that safety path that a lot of the levels have. There doesn't seem to be a set way through it, which is, you know, guaranteed and easy and no effort required. A lot of these are... You're going to be putting yourself in undesirable positions because it seems to be the only real position you have. And it begins here. So this street has a couple of dudes on it, and it has a very long stretch to get to the radio tower place, and there's a turret on it. And I was looking for vents, I was looking for drain pipes, I was looking for all kinds of stuff, and you just don't find it. I didn't find anything like that. In the end, I have to trick the guns to get past them, and I end up knocking out these guys. And I'm almost certain there must be a tricky way of getting over that fence and getting to the manhole quicker than what I'm about to show you, but I tried the fences, I tried the drain pipes, and I just couldn't find a quicker way, guys. So I'm going to be taking you on a bit of a scenic route here, which might be one of the only routes to do this. So at this part right now, this is during my reconnoitre, my reconnaissance, whatever you want to say. Which we used to say recce at school, which doesn't make any sense considering it's R-E-C-C-E, which is of course a shortened way of saying reconnoitre, which, if you've ever done any kind of production, it's where you go with a producer and members of your crew to scout an area for its feasibility to be part of what you're doing. And it's a pretty interesting process. A lot of it has to do with the technical stuff, you know, the health and safety of it, all that kind of good information, but a lot of it is also the vision of it. Does it look like what the director wants? Does it look like an area that's going to be as functional to film in as it would be to do anything else in? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is there enough areas to get power to it so that you can actually film there? All kinds of stuff you really wouldn't think about go down. But after I've knocked those two guys down, there's a transition because I was messing around looking for quite a while to find a different path, and I just couldn't do it. So I throw a flare, and then I bum rush this gun. And then there's this really weird moment where I can't get past it, but it stops firing, and I use that second to skirt in front of it, and it only stops firing for a second, so you have to be sharp, but save before you try it, guys. If you do get hit, you can always reload. But so now we've pushed past the turret. There's going to be a guy patrolling. From the looks of him, he looks slightly less relaxed than the average patrol, so I think he knows something's going on. He must have heard the gun firing, but it's okay because we're going to probably take him out. You see that bullshit? That is some weird bullshit right there. So that's what the AI does on this game. There's two people coming this way, in fact. So sometimes, I think it's because it's tuned to so aware. You know, the computer knows where you are all the time. It's omniscient. It can't help but be omniscient. The reason the world works and is governed by its rules is because it's always in a constant state of understanding what's happening. When any of those states are interrupted, that's when games lock up or when they crash. So the computer know where you are. It's just, of course, they're programmed to only respond in certain ways when they've seen you, which I'm using my fingers to do the quotation marks. So in those moments, I think that's where the AI kind of clashes with what it knows as opposed to what it should do. So it still can't technically say it knows where you are, but it moves in the perfect way to be exactly where you are, and it happens a lot in these games. So he's just said it's a waste of time. That means he's slightly less curious of us, and he's looking for shit now, and I'm just kind of, what is he doing? I'm a little bit curious as to his part. He keeps staring. There's something over there that's got his eye. I'm like, what is he looking at? But I come up to him, I clop him, and we're good to go. We're in well, it looks like we're in shadow, but if you look at the meter, this is about as bright as it gets, and I believe it's because of the filtering light that's coming through. I mentioned earlier in this walkthrough that technology in the first game was completely cosmetic. In this game, it's mechanical, and in Chaos Theory, it's additionally mechanically too, because the lighting on that game is so dynamic and so much more subtle and realistic. But once we're in the sewers, this next sequence is kind of tricky. So you want to be as liberal with your saving here as you can. Just save whenever you've done something right. It will alleviate stress. Of course, be aware that the games can crash. I did not have Pandora Tomorrow crash on me, but I did have the first game and I did have Chaos Theory, so in my eyes this game wins because it never fucked me like that, which I'm very appreciative of. So I'm currently waiting because I have no idea where he is. A lot of the times it's usually quicker to run the risk of being spotted and reload than it is ever to wait, but in a lot of these situations, if I trim things out, it changes the pattern, and you're going to need some of these patterns. So as much as I would like to have it where I'm not waiting a long period of time up against that wall and tell you that I've cut it out, I'm going to show the ones I need to show and trim out the ones that it's okay to trim. And hopefully I'll be on top of them and I'll be able to tell you when that's a thing. The water here, I mean, it looks pretty shitty, but you know, for the time it looked great. Like, really interesting. And I mean, it is an interesting effect. It's got the, you know, the causticy, the wavy motion of the reflections in it. I don't think that they're accurate reflections. I think it's a design, but it still looks, you know, it looks like something that it needs to look like. It looks like it's getting its job. But there are people here and there are cameras here, and that's what makes it tricky. And it's just because you're moving in water, if you move too quickly you're going to make an effect. But I shot that light out so that that camera wouldn't see me, and then I'm going to shoot this camera. For some reason on Chaos Theory, I think it's because they introduced the pistols neutralizing the kind of, it has the ability to turn off machines for a short amount of time, like an EMP feature. And because of it, they've armoured the cameras. Every single camera in Chaos Theory that I tried to shoot just didn't even respond. I couldn't honestly tell you why. I think they've just made it so that you can't get away with that anymore. Ooh, this is interesting too. I think if you drop this guy's body in the water, he will suffocate. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but in games, you don't usually have that kind of an issue. So I'm going to drop this dude, hopefully, on a place that is not the water. If I don't, it means I don't have to worry about it. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to kill him. So, I'm very paranoid about things like that because when I played this, I was going for no kills. But I don't think there's a trophy in this game for doing that. There was in the first game. I don't know if there's one in this game, or I might have just decided that I'm not going to do that, because there's a couple of sequences in Pandora where I shoot people. So maybe I just kind of threw caution to the wind on that particular objective, but you might notice that I'm not killing people unless I really have to, or if I'm being seditious and dumping unconscious men in like chest-high water. But this roof is a nightmare. So not only do you have a light that is sweeping around on a pattern that will instantly fail you, but you have mines, and you can only see the light when you're not in thermal vision. In thermal vision, you can't see where the light is, and it makes it kind of tricky, so you're going to have to manage dodging the mines, knowing where the light is, and taking off your goggles to see where the light is. And this is me introducing you to the concept of accuracy. This gun is impeccable when it comes to special forces. Yeah, I just had it on that mine, shot it a dozen times and got nothing. But the strategy here is very simple. Clip on the satellite until you decide not to move, and then move to the next satellite. You're going to dodge the mines, dodge the spotlight, get from shadow of satellite dish to shadow of satellite dish. There's the gap in the mines. Hide behind this little thing, wait for the lights to pass, and then get to the shadow that's behind the satellite dish, but do not trip the mines. Which I think this is a really good sequence, but it's also kind of tricky and kind of awkward because there's nothing really like this in the game. But now that we've done that, we need to get to the one directly across from us, and then once we're there we can climb the fence and we can get past this interesting room. But patience is key here. If you try and rush it, you're going to trigger a bomb or you're going to get hit by that light. I got spotted a few times when I was trying to do this path because I was getting too cocky, I was running, and sometimes it really pays off and I get super cool strategies, other times I just get dead a lot. But get into the shadow of this beast, and then wait once again, and then save. And then we're going to be climbing over this fence, but you can only climb over a certain section of it. The section with the barbed wire you can't climb. On the far left hand side there is no barbed wire, so that section you can climb. And that's what we're going to be doing, but be under no illusion here folks. That spotlight will still see you unless you're behind those air conditioning unit things. I don't even know what they are, some kind of like power conductors or something. I don't know. Something. There's some kind of miscellaneous roof tech that I am completely ignorant of because I've never really been on a roof, I guess. But they look cool, whatever they are. So stand behind this, wait for the light to do its thing, make sure you save just in case, because you're going to have to run across there and pick this door. And if you break the lock, the guy inside it's going to see you. Not that you can break locks on this game, because I think that's a Chaos Theory only technique, which I really like. But they changed a lot of things on that game. Can you remember earlier on in this walkthrough I said one of the Splinter Cells makes it so when you shoot lights it's nowhere near as powerful anymore because they notice that the light is broken and it makes them suspicious? That is introduced in Chaos Theory. Also, if you turn off a light or open a door, they notice that stuff too. And I never really remember them noticing it all that much on these early games, but on Chaos Theory you can literally use it to work a strategy like clockwork every single time. They will fall for it. They will always go and this door's not supposed to be open, even though this is a hotel with public guests and this is a public guest room. Yeah, the door's open and I think that's somehow suspicious. Like, okay, but I'll take it and I'm gonna clop you. But moving out into the car park, there is a guy moving around this taxi car, or just this yellow car thing. He's gonna walk. You can kind of not see him, but he's there. I'm gonna clop him just in case, in the shadows. And then we're going to climb onto this roof.
Cohen was right. Too
And we're going to climb onto this roof using the kind of abridged mechanic of the last game, where Sam could do splits between two walls, but only very specific walls. On this game, Sam can do it between a variety of different walls because he kind of moderates how he does it. And there's a fantastic feature of Chaos Theory where, to tell which walls you can do it with, Sam will do this thing with his head, this unique animation where he looks up. He looks to the left and then he looks up, and that is the game's natural way of telling you can do the splits jump. And I never normally do the splits jump on Chaos Theory, but every time I saw every time I saw Sam do it, I wanted to do it, and I ended up messing about quite a lot with that feature, because I love the splits jump. I think it's beast. And I really should go back to Blacklist and see if you can do it on that game, because I don't think I've ever done it on that game, and I hope they didn't get rid of it. But break the window, rappel down into this terrifying looking room, and realise it's not quite as intimidating as it first appears, because there's a lot of wiggle room to this guy's pattern and to the pools of light and shadow. But just know that there are some really tricky rooms coming up. I think this level's tougher than the final one, personally. So, somebody saw something, that's why you can hear them talking. That guy's gone patrolling over there. I've come to this bank of televisions where the guard's post is. And this is one of those rooms that's really stylized, and it can be tricky to tell where you're meant to go. So, I look through a couple of vision modes to see if they'll help me. Predator 2 style. And then I notice he starts walking off that way. And I think I'm going to ignore him and move towards the elevators. Looks like that's what I'm going to do. So, always save, always get those backups, and just be aware that the elevators on these games, that was a good elevator. Can be a little tricky because some of them you have to press the console, and they enable you for a very strange reason to press buttons that don't do anything. And I always kind of liked that because it's a nice touch, but I've stood in elevators for 5 minutes while doing other things because I'd pressed the wrong button and I thought it was the game taking a while to load the elevator or something. So you need to be aware if you press up and there are no floors above you, the elevator will troll you. It does not care. It'll shut those doors and you will not move. But we're moving now into the broadcast area. A couple of tricky patterns coming up, but I have some pretty good paths through them. So we're going to be following this guy. He's going to walk into this next area, and this next room is kind of crazy. There's also a camera, as you just heard, somewhere. Or maybe not, maybe it's just a sound effect on the soundtrack. But this next room, real tricky. Do you see the shadow there? That's that guy. He's moving back on us, so if we'd have gone in this room, he would have been alerted to us. I just opened the door, and he's like, yo dog, somebody opened the door, I heard it. He's going to come, we're going to clop him. Now we've clopped him, I'll probably move him, and it's one less dude to worry about in that room we're about to enter. So you see that right there? Somebody actually said the light was broken, but that wouldn't have really worked in Chaos Theory because the gun shooting things now makes so much more noise, and people hear it from some pretty crazy distances. But the good news is, if somebody heard that, they're moving towards us, and if they're moving towards us, we've isolated them and we can take them out, and that's another person we don't have to worry about. That is the great thing about the stealth in Splinter Cell games that I always liked. You don't have to follow a perfect path. There is no, streamlined one way through this level. There is no, I messed it up so now everything is gone. You can adapt on the fly and it works. And sometimes it works better than you intended. And I've always really appreciated that. Like there are certain games where you have to adhere to a very strict plan. And if you deviate, it throws off every strategy afterwards. But in this, it's pretty flexible and I really like that. It's kind of my mentality for a good ranking system. If your ranking system forces people to play in one style regardless of what they do or how good they are, then you've fundamentally failed. And you need to rethink it. That's my thoughts on it anyway. But I use the lights to bait that guy, and then I clop him. I don't know why I say clop, I just do. It is the seraphic terminology for this particular guide. But we're moving further into this station now, into the radio rooms. You'll notice I never use the optic cable. It's because I'm careless more than anything. When I first played these games, I used to use it all the time because I thought it was really cool. but it's one of those things where I save quite freely, so that if I do make a mistake by opening a door and everybody's looking at me, I can just reload. And the loading on this high definition collection is not as bad as it could have been. Sure, it's not fantastic, but if you've ever played an Xbox One, you'll really appreciate the loading in this game. So I clop him, pop him in the room, turn off the light. Do you see the lady on the other side of the recording booth? She's who we need to talk to. But there is a guy that's just been in the room, so we're waiting for him to move on. But it has to be said, you know, if they created a level editor for Splinter Cell, I think I'd never stop playing it, because there would always be really cool and smart people making new levels. I'd obviously have a crack myself, but I've only ever really gotten into one level editor, and that was Time Splitters 2, and even then, you could only have a very few amount of assets, so I couldn't make anything truly, you know, really ambitious like I wanted to, but I still tried. And of course RPG Maker, which doesn't count, where I had all the ambition in the world, but not enough knowledge on how to make it work and work the way I wanted it to. But I probably would never stop. Like, you know, Hitman Absolution? It's the worst Hitman game, in my opinion. And that's completely not true. I think Hitman Absolution is a great game, and I think it's better than all of them except for Blood Money and Contracts. And I only say that because Hitman 1 and 2 don't work. And that doesn't mean you can't make them work. I've seen some people do some crazy things on those games, but if you're casually playing Hitman 1 or 2 and you try and do things that you can do in Blood Money and Contracts and Absolution, they just don't work in that game. People turn around and see you for no fucking reason. Like, it's super strict and stupid, and the AI is all omniscient and super alert. It's janky as hell. But they're still fantastic games, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have the great ones that they then became. Absolution, however, it's the game that functions the best, but they changed so many fundamentals that I really didn't like. However, it had a create your own level kind of scenario where you could change where people were and what targets were and objectives were within the structures of the levels they designed. It was nowhere near as awesome as I would have liked it to be, but it was still really cool. And that kind of stuff is awesome. It would have been better if you could have, you know, completely designed where people were standing and their paths and all that kind of tricky stuff, but you couldn't. You could just kind of change targets and what have you, and mission objectives, recommendations and all that. But just the idea of being able to make situations to stealth through using, you know, the same technology and philosophy of these games is, you know, I'm sold. You know how there's Project Other M for Smash Bros. Melee, where somebody made... I don't really know too much about it, so I'm probably going to murder what the game actually is, but essentially it's a PC version of Smash Bros. Brawl that plays like Melee, because a lot of people were really disgruntled with Brawl, and there's a lot of Melee fans, and then they made like an intermediary, and I have no idea how it happened, but it's pretty fucking beautiful that it did. Now just imagine anything else like that, like people's ability to do that with games, and then they do it with something else. Like, can you imagine just a fan-made Splinter Cell that had the mechanics of the old Splinter Cells? God, that'd be so cool. Like, any game, like, insert the game you like or any series you enjoy, and it gets the Project Other M treatment. Like, I'm always thinking that when I play Rise. Whenever I play Rise, Son of Rome, for people who don't know, I'm reminded of just how much it really annoys me when I get down to it. I think it's a super fun game and I've had a ton of fun with it, but there are certain parts of it that make me want to snap the disc. And I'll tell you them after this, because this is hard. So, the sound design in this room is terrible. For some reason there's a fucking thunderstorm happening, and the audio guys doing the Foley work put the microphone bang next to it and they thought it was a really good idea. You can't hear what people are saying, you can't hear what's happening, all you can hear is a ton of rain. And yes, that's what it sounds like when you're in a glass surface when it rains quite heavily. I have a conservatory, I am well aware, but still, it sounds like trash in a game when you're trying to do stuff. But I hit that guy, it makes this guy come over here, I don't know why, he's kind of alerted, then I'm going to hit him, he goes down, and then there's going to be... Notice how it goes really quiet when I change weapons too? And now what happens is there's a couple more people that are going to be moving towards us, so I'm just going to sit back here, and I'm going to take them out. The first one is on my right, do you see him? If they get close to that fat bird, they will kill her. So I take him down, and then I sticky shock at him, and that's it, you've done. That's the full section, I think. There might be one more guy. Yeah, one more guy, sorry. And there you go, that's it. So it looks simple, doesn't it? It looks really easy and really quick. Turns out that getting that pattern down was trickier than it looked because the AI does silly things. If you take them out in different orders, they'll move different ways. You know, if you kill them soon, or you kill them before they've done certain things, they'll move in different ways. So if your game is different to what you just saw, it's how it works. It's just kind of bullshitty like that. But now that we've took them out, we can talk to Ingrid. She's going to tell us that she's all grateful and shit. I'm going to shoot out this light just in case, because I am very paranoid about the alarm system in these old games. The good news is Chaos Theory completely fixes that. You can leave a body on a flagpole in the middle of like town square, someplace, like a busy town centre, and you leave the level, you won't get an alarm as long as nobody saw it when you stuck it up. Like, it's really good for that. But of course there are moments where they find bodies that don't exist, and that is really frustrating, but we'll talk about that plenty in the Chaos Theory guide. But there goes Ingrid, she's saved. We're now going to move on to the area where Sedano is, and hopefully we're going to pick him up and slap his ass for being a bad one. But Rise, guys. The combat in Rise is very simple, and at a high level, it's a piece of shit. And I say this out of the kindest part of my heart, because it's bad, it's just bad. When you have systems that enable moves to become unblockable because of the way those systems interact with each other, that is a fundamental failing on your game. When two people attack you, and you are in certain recovering animations, you cannot do anything about it, because buttons do not do the correct inputs. You cannot deflect two attacks at the same time if they are spaced a very specific kind of way. Additionally, if you try and roll, there's no guarantee that you will roll away from the attack because of how shit the roll is. So there are certain situations and setups that are completely unblockable, unavoidable. Nothing you can do will stop you from taking a hit, and that is dog shit. Utter dog shit. But just imagine if somebody made a Batman Arkham mod that was the game of Rise in Rise's engine, but with the combat as tight as Batman, because the Batman combat is tight. If you drop your combo on a Batman game, you dropped it. It's your fault. You did not do something right. If you're good enough at that game, you can chain a full room, regardless. Sure, you can get unlucky, and there are those moments where Batman does that animation that's super long instead of the quick jab, but aside from that, it's generally your fault. On Rise, it's a piece of shit. So just imagine if Rise had the same fidelity of its combat mechanics as Batman did. And here's how you know that it's not the case as it stands. I'm doing the multiplayer currently. I'm trying to rank up to level 100. The higher your combo, the more points you get. In the very first wave, you can come up against 2 guys, you can come up against 3 guys, or you can come up against 4 guys. Normal guys, nothing special about them. Tell me right now, Arkham fans, if you see 4 standard goons in a combat room in Arkham, you will never, ever mess that up. Because you're too good at that point. You've took out rooms with 50 dudes in it, titans in it, all kinds of one-armed guys with big sword things. You've done it. You 4 normal dudes, you're gonna beat them down so bad and keep the highest combo you physically can get. You're gonna use all your gadgets, all your executions. You're gonna do the beatdown move to get your multiplier up. You're gonna do that every single time. There is no situation where you ever drop a combo against 4 guys because you've taken 50 guys on earlier on, and now you've got this shit down. On Rise, I'm as comfortable against 2 people as I am against 20 people, because if the game decides to fuck you, there's nothing you can do. And it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. And it sucks because that game is simple. That game doesn't have much going for it, so the stuff it does have going for it, you think it'd be flawless. And there are moments where you can deflect 2 people in sequence, but if it's too quick, you can't. Or if you're coming out of an execution animation and somebody attacks you just as you come out, you can't do ult because you're in recovery. And it's not long recovery, but if the AI perfectly times it, and they do, there's literally nothing you can do. But I should have talked about that because it's kind of important. As soon as you grab Sedano, nobody will do anything. It looks intimidating, it sounds intimidating, but you are 100% safe. Getting to him can be tricky, so what I do is what you saw then. I go through the entire room, I go towards that curtain, I save, and then I bum rush him. And then as soon as you've grabbed him, this is the end of the level. All you have to do now is take him up here to the chopper. And if you turn the camera, you'll see people are following us, and it does look kind of sketchy, but it's all good. You will not have any issue as long as you have Sedano like this. But the moral of the story is, Rise combat system could be really, really good, but it makes mistakes that Arkham Asylum did when it was the first time this combat had ever been done. And Arkham City fixed all those mistakes, and it made like one of the most beautiful, rhythmic, almost ballet-esque combat system. And for this next generation title to rip that combat system off and insult the people who made it by ripping it off badly, it just baffles me because I don't understand it. And it's such a shame as well, because that game, it's simple but it's fun, and it just, like, people seem to think I enjoy banging on games, and I do on certain games, but it all stems from a desire and a wish for them to be better, for them to be, you know, what they could have been, because I don't think anybody sets out to make a shit game. Nobody sets out to make Destiny. It just kind of happens. But thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.